Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leslie presents. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we welcome Mr. Johnny Farina. Johnny, thanks so much for making the time to speak with us. Who is Johnny Farina?
A very happy man. I have to say, I've been blessed. You know, I have a great life that I lead. I have a lot of toys, and I have some nice shows that I continuously do. A lot of good things happened just recently with Sleepwalk. There are many people all over this planet that constantly listens to Sleepwalk. As a matter of fact, a news reporter named Robbie Walliver had mentioned that he did a big article years ago on Sleepwalk, and he said it's in everybody's DNA. It is. You know, it's a lot of times people, if you ask them, do you know that song Sleepwalk? And they'll say, no, can you hum it? As soon as you hum 2 or 3 notes, oh yeah, I know that song. That's the song from La Bamba. That's the song from a commercial that they heard, or one of the movies, Stephen King's Sleepwalkers, you know, and so forth. It's been in over 35 movies.
Amazing. The first time I ever heard that song, the first time that it really stuck with me was in a Publix grocery store commercial.
Yeah, when it was used for Publix, as a matter of fact, there was some people wrote in one of the local newspapers in Florida, I think it was, that they were trying to determine what was the name of the song. Was it the song from La Bamba, or was it the Publix commercial song? And then somebody did give the correct title, you know. So Publix is a nice store. I happen to like it.
It is a nice store, but it was on a TV commercial, and I remember as soon as I heard the song, I thought, wow, you know, that's great. And it made me think of like a lazy summer day, which, you know, Publix is Florida. So I thought, yeah. Well, what was the inspiration behind the song?
It wasn't a planned thing that we did. You know, a lot of people ask the same question. How did you and Santo come up with a melody like that? And the only thing I can say is that we were kids playing. We would play at church dances, and we'd play at the local taverns when we were kids. We would come home at night. We would be so pumped up from playing that it was hard to really sleep. And my father had bought us a Webcore tape recorder, and he told us, you should tape everything that you do, because it looks like you guys are writing songs without even realizing what you're doing. And so Sleepwalk came out one night that we came home, and we were just so high on music, because when we used to play, as a matter of fact, it still happens to me now, after a performance, I just can't sleep. I'll go out and to a diner or something that's open all night and hang out with some of the musicians, and then finally go home, you know. But it's just something that I think when it's in your blood, man, it's just it doesn't leave.
We're talking with Mr. Johnny Farina of the legendary group Santo and Johnny. Regarding the song Sleepwalk, when you hear the song or when you play the song, what does the song make you think of?
Every time I play the song, I thank the good Lord for it, because let me tell you, I never had to work a day in my life. So sort of a miracle song, I would call it. It's a song that is timeless. It could be used for, certain movies like Stephen King's movie of Sleepwalkers. It was used for La Bamba, which was a 50s movie. Then it was used in 12 Monkeys, which was a futuristic movie with Bruce Willis. There's a group in the UK. They're called Basement Jacks. You ever hear them?
No, I haven't heard of that group.
Okay, well, I heard they're a big group. They sold 4 or 5 million CDs already, and they're well known in the UK. What they do is dance music, you know. And as a matter of fact, Yoko Ono was on one of their cuts that they just finished an album. And what they did was they have Sleepwalk playing, and they're doing like sort of a rap over it. So I'm happy about that. Then there's also the Pretenders. You've heard of them, right?
Oh, yeah, the Pretenders.
Yeah, okay, so the Pretenders, they have an album, a CD called Break Up the Concrete. The main song from the album is Boots of Chinese Plastic, and they started off with Sleepwalk, you know, and, which is an attention getter. and I'm happy about that. That puts some more gasoline in my boat, you know. There's always people inquiring about movies, you know, to use it. They just used it in Amsterdam for a commercial for clean air. You know, so, I mean, the whole planet is aware of Sleepwalk. It's probably one of the biggest, or maybe the biggest instrumental around, because it's been recorded so many times, you know?
Well, just doing research, I've read in a few places that some people say that Sleepwalk is the #1 instrumental song, period.
I believe so, and, you know, and it's something that you really don't know how you write it. It's something that just comes out of you, and I could describe it maybe like these well-known painters when they would paint a portrait, or they would just dip the brush and then just make the stroke. It wasn't planned. They would just dip it a certain way, a certain amount of pressure, and just make that stroke. I think we painted a beautiful picture that will last forever.
Wow, that has to be amazing. I know we were kind of going over this about how many versions there are, but I have a collection of versions of this song. I had never heard the song with words before until I have a record from a group called the Howleys. They do a version of Sleepwalk that has a female vocalist singing words to it.
I know that there are lyrics for the song. As a matter of fact, Diana Ross even sang it. I like to hear the group, how they did it.
Our special guest is Johnny Farina of Santo Johnny. Johnny, what was life like growing up?
Life in Brooklyn, because that's where Santo and I were born, we didn't come from a rich family, you know. My father was a baker. He worked very hard. He didn't make much money, but we always had nice clothing and, you know, we had good food. That was like what was really important to us. But growing up in a neighborhood, it was predominantly Italian-American and Irish. You know, we were just two kids from Brooklyn growing up playing stickball in the streets of Brooklyn, and we would make scooters. There were certain times of the year we used to have different things would come about. That's how we entertained ourselves in those days. We would trade comic books. We would flip baseball cards, things that are not heard of today. It's really unusual in the world of today. It's all electronic. I always say, I just hope the kids' batteries never die, because they won't know what else to do. I don't know if they'll be able to know how to pick up a phone. Everything is text messages, you know. It's just a way that the world has changed, and I sort of like the old way better, when people were more realistic. People, I think, were more honorable. You never heard of people swindling money the way people do today and getting away with it. I mean, if you get me on a talk about that, believe me, I won't stop talking, because these things, man, I am so American and proud to be an American, and then I see people that disrespect this country and get away with it. I just don't want to tolerate that.
I completely understand. And what you were saying about the electronics, sometimes I wonder if the younger kids today, if it's like affecting their attention spans.
Of course.
You know, it's like they don't know how to interact with people face to face anymore. It's all virtual.
That's for sure. You know, I was in the airport coming back 2 weeks ago, and I'm in the airport, and there's a man sitting next to me, and there's a young girl sitting right across from him. She's text messaging. I could see what she's doing. And he's text messaging. And actually, that was his daughter. Instead of her talking to her father, which was sitting right across from him, she's text messaging him. I said, what is this world come to, man? You know, out of something good, they just went, as usual, they went overboard.
Our special guest is Johnny Farina of Santo Johnny. I was reading that you had a TV show in Italy.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we were like really superstars in Italy. A lot of people don't know that. Like, we did all the cover records on, like, James Bond. We did Goldfinger, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice. And we had Sean Connery, Ursula Andress on the cover. We had, when it was Thunderball, we had the ship on the cover. when we did his album, we had the Beatles, the pictures of the Beatles on the cover, you know. And in fact, we had a #1 record in Mexico. If you read the bio, you might see it. It mentions about a song called Endalara. In Spanish, it was called El Amo. And it was #1 for 21 weeks. I was just thinking about a funny story, which I will mention. We were in Mexico at the time. The Beatles had not arrived yet. So we arrived first with our song, which was on the charts for 2 weeks already. It was #1. And when we flew down there, we brought a rhythm section down with us, and we're on the plane. I can remember like it happened yesterday. And this is 1965, okay? Now, Mexico, they had a very small airport, plane taxis up, and it was pouring rain. I look out the window, and what do I see? I see, like, hundreds of people, you know, with the umbrellas, and I said, wow, the Beatles must be on this plane. So we didn't fly first class, so I'm trying to peek through the window to see if I see anybody or flashes going off. Nobody's flashing cameras or anything. I'm saying, wow. Now I'm looking around, like, who could be on this plane? As soon as we get off, like, they're going crazy. So we had a 2-week contract. We were there for 3 months. Needless to say, I had more than Montezuma's revenge, you know? So I came home, and I said, wow, I need a rest after this. But I found out in Mexico recently, because I went back a couple of years ago to Mexico City, that the people still believe that the Beatles copied Santo and Johnny, only because we had And I Love Her out, which was the Beatles song prior to the Beatles, because they didn't have distribution in Mexico, and we did. I learned that, you know, when I was in Mexico. About maybe 3 weeks ago, EMI sent me a George Harrison album. I don't know if you know, they released an album called Let's Roll.
No, I'm not familiar with that album. Okay,
well, it's called an album, CD, Let's Roll, and there's a cut on there called Mawa Blues, okay? And on it, on his liner notes, George Harrison pays tribute to Santo and Johnny's Teardrop, because he loved Teardrop, and I didn't know it. And then I found out that John Lennon wrote Free as a Bird because he was inspired by Sleepwalk. So I didn't know that we were so connected to these two people. Do you know the name May Pang?
Yes, I sure do, of John Lennon's association.
Okay, so I know her, and I did a show about a month ago, and May came down to see me perform. So I emailed May about maybe a week ago and said, you know something, I just remembered a story that there's an underground album out, A Toot, A Snore, in 64, and then it came out in 74. But anyway, it was an underground album. It was done at John Lennon's house. He had a studio in California. Paul McCartney went there, and Stevie Wonder was there, and they were really partying out, you know. But meanwhile, John Lennon picks up the guitar and starts strumming the chords to Sleepwalk, and he calls it Nightmare with the melody of Sleepwalk. And then he stopped doing that, and he said, no, this is Santo and Johnny's Sleepwalk. So I emailed May, and I said, do you know about it? And she said, Johnny, I was there when he did it. It's a lot of history that I'm telling you tonight. And
Yeah.
I hope your listeners really dig it.
Well, I can say that I'm digging it. I am going to have to see if I can find a copy of that.
It's supposed to be a snort, see, because they were doing some cocaine, you know.
Right.
So, but they put a snore, but it's supposed to be a snort in 64, then 74. I think they changed the years on, because then it came out.
Well, you just mentioned a minute ago about touring in Mexico, and you played a lot of places in the world. Now, you haven't played in Georgia, the state of Georgia, that is, yet, but hopefully that will change, because I would love to see you play. But where have you played that you like the most?
It's really a hard call, because it depends on the people. I was playing in Connecticut last week, and I had one of the best times I had in a while. They were so into it. You know, I'm thinking about that, and now I'm thinking also when I was in California about a year and a half ago, they had some big arenas. There was the L.A. arena, and then there was, I played San Diego, San Jose. I was playing for the Chicano crowd. A promoter called me up and said, listen, I want to put you on a show that you've never done before. I said, yeah? He said, yeah, but because of La Bamba, there's a big Chicano audience here. They would love you. So I opened up with a song called Europa, which is on that CD I sent you. Actually, Carlos Santana had called me after I sent it to him, and he really loved my version of it. I was touched by the people in California because I guess about maybe 9,000 to 10,000 people at this concert. There were a bunch of artists on it, and I was part of the show. But when I played the last harmonic, and Sleepwalk, I mean, they all yelled out. Can you imagine, like 10,000 people yelling out Richie? It was really touching. And
wow.
I was playing in Cerrito, California. And the maid came into my room. She was Mexican. She was going to clean the room. And I said, it's okay. I'm just writing some notes. You can clean it up, So she was straightening up the room, and then she saw some CDs, and then she knew who I was. And she couldn't speak English, but she's saying the name, Santo and Johnny. I said, so I gave her a CD and my picture, and I thought it was funny that all day long when she was cleaning rooms, she had my picture on her cart. She was wheeling me around, in the hallway, and I thought that's a funny thing, and that's a nice thing to happen. So when you say about me playing different places, it's really hard to say. Well, I like California better than Boston. I think the other thing is that what happens, I think it's the sound of my guitar. It's just like it's almost like a spiritual sound. I mean, the steel guitar is just a very, very unique sounding instrument. You could play rock on, you could play very passionate music on, and the people, what they tell me after I finish performing, that they're touched by the music. It just goes right through them. They say. I think that's what makes me happy when I hear that.
Yeah, the steel guitar, it's almost like a haunting kind of sound. I was talking to a pedal steel guitar player named Doyle Grisham, and he plays the steel guitar for Jimmy Buffett. And when I told him that I was interviewing Johnny Farina, he flipped out. He said, oh my gosh, you have to tell me when that thing is airing. Because he said that was one of his favorite songs to play as a solo steel guitar song, period. One of his absolute favorite songs to play.
We were inducted into the Steel Guitar Hall of Fame. I think if you look on the back of the CD, I forgot what year, was it maybe 2001 it could have been. I'm not sure now. But it's on the back of the CD. If you looked on the back of the CD, which I'm sure you did, you'll see the plaque from the Steel Guitar Hall of Fame.
Yes, indeed.
I think it was 2001. A lot of these men that came over to me, some of them were like in their 80s, and these were the people that my father listened to, and he was inspired. Can you imagine? My father was born in Italy, okay? Listen, I mean, it's such a strange scenario. My father was born in Italy, comes over to the United States when he's about 9 or 10. He's working for like $1 a day, because at that time there was no such thing as protecting children, with child labor, Here's a man, he grows up, he doesn't have any ability to play any kind of instrument. And then he gets taken into the Army, and he's stationed in Texas and Oklahoma, and he was so inspired by listening to the steel guitar that he wrote home to my mom, said, let the boys learn how to play this beautiful instrument. Santo and I had no idea what my father was talking about, because in the neighborhood that we lived in, there were only Italian people. Most of them were all born in Europe. There were first wave of Italians coming over and Irish immigrants, and all you heard was accordions and mandolins and maybe a regular guitar,
Right.
So to learn how to play a steel guitar in a predominantly neighborhood where nobody even knew what it was like, it's like, how are you going to do that, But what happened was, my mom was trying to get us lessons. By the time she found maybe somebody that thought he could teach us, not that he knew how to play it, my father got injured in the Army. He gets sent home. Now he's the one. He's got this thing that he wants us to learn how to play. Meanwhile, he's listening to a program called The Hometown Frolic. It was a country and western station that we would listen to on Saturdays, and he would say, see, that's what you have to play. That's the sound that you have to play. Now he's educating us on country and western sound, but yet Santo and I never played country and western. We were just playing what we thought, what we heard. We were playing rock and roll.
Right.
We were playing rock and roll and standards. Going back to being inducted into the Steel Guitar Hall of Fame, I got to meet the people that I grew up listening to, like Hank Williams steel guitar players, and all those people that were doing the sessions that were always in the background, that you heard their music, but they never really got recognition on the air. I mean, all you heard was, this is Hank Williams singing. You always heard the steel guitar in the background, you know? But I finally got to meet these people, and let me tell you, I was so moved. I was unbelievably moved that I couldn't even speak, you know? I was too emotional that these people came over and said, you know, because of you guys, you put the steel guitar on the map. I said, perhaps because Sleepwalk is like the only #1 record that was recorded on steel, but the idea is that to be honored by great musicians was too much to handle.
Our special guest is Johnny Farina of Santo and Johnny. Johnny, what kind of music did you listen to growing up?
Growing up, I actually listened to Bing Crosby, Frankie Lane, Perry Como, Sinatra, Vaughn Monroe. As a matter of fact, that's why I recorded Ghost Riders in the Sky, which I had sent you my CD, and I always liked that song when I was a kid, so that's why I wanted to do it. And my wife liked it, too, so that's one of the reasons I put it on there. I shopped the record around for about a year and a half. Nobody wanted to even listen to it.
Really?
Because it was still oh, yeah. I was shopping at the Brill Building. The Brill Building at the time was the place to go. I'm sure if you read the old rock and roll books, you'll see that that was the music business. If you wanted to get a deal, you went there. But I only had 2 records with me. They were actually cut, you know, like in the old days. And then they would just have like I think it was metal-based, and there was like maybe vinyl on top, and then a needle would cut right into it, you know. The guy at the studio would make it right there. I still have those records, as a matter of fact. One side was Sleepwalk. The flip side was All Night Diner. The third one was a country song that, it had a country sound. I was singing on it. And actually, I never let anybody hear me sing because I believed in Sleepwalk all the way. I never had a doubt that it was going to happen.
It's inspiring that you believed in yourself like that.
Well, I did. So at 16, actually, I quit school at 16 because I told my father, I'm not learning anything here, and what I'm going to do, people can't teach me. My father said, you need an education because, you know, he was a baker. He said, you don't want to be a baker like me. You want to, you want to have a good education. And I said, you know, Dad, we're going to become stars. And, he looked at me like, oh, man, this kid has got, like, pipe dreams, And, but he allowed me to quit school. I would shop the record around constantly. I didn't have any success with record labels. I had a book of record labels that were located in the New York area, basically the Brill Building and surrounding areas in the city. Because I didn't have a car, I was only 16. What happened was I was not successful at that. Then I bought a book on publishers. I started to go down the gamut of publishers. I would just pick names that I thought sounded like I would like to go there, okay? Mm-hmm. And one day, I was going down the alphabet, and I came to T, and I saw Trinity Music. And I said, wow, I'm a Catholic, I said, wow, maybe this is like the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. This might be a sign from God. He wants me to go here. I'm a young kid. I got so much drive that maybe this is what God wants me to do. So I go to this building, 101 West 55th Street. I can remember this like yesterday. I remember walking in the hallway, and the door was slightly open, and I stuck my head in there, and I had the records under my arm, and there was a man about to bite into a pastrami sandwich, and he said, "I know, kid, you have a hit record." And at that moment, I actually believed that it was a miracle, that he knew I had the hit record. God sent me there. And I'm saying, "Hey, how do you know I have a hit record?" And he said, "Hey, kid, everybody has a hit record in New York." I said, "But I really..." Now he's shooting me down. I said, no. I say, "This is really a hit record." He said, "I know, so leave it." I said, "No, I can't leave it. I only have one of each. I have 3 songs. Just can't leave it here. You have to play it now. Just play it." He said, "I can't." He said, "I listen to music all day long. I need time to relax, and I want to have my lunch now." And I said, "You know something? You're really going to kick yourself, you know where, you know?" And actually, I told him because I was a kid from Brooklyn. I didn't care if I had to tell him where to go, and I told him. I said, "Wait till you kick yourself, you know?" And he said, "What kind of music is it anyway?" I said, "Steel guitar music." What are you talking about? Country music? I can remember. What are you talking about, kid? Country music? Hawaiian? I said, no. I said, "This is something different. You never heard anything like this. This is rock and roll played on the steel. It's like R&B," which it was, you know. He said, "Leave it." I said, "I can't leave it." I said, "I'm going to go now." And I thought he was going to say, I'm waiting for him to say, don't go. So finally he says, "All right, come in, put it on the Victrola." Kids today, the only time they've ever seen a Victrola is in a museum probably, because they have no idea what it is,
Right.
So he had his little Victrola there, and I put it on. So I was listening to it, and he said, "Hey, you know what? You want some of my lunch?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Later on, he became our manager, too. So he shopped it, and he got the deal with Canadian American, and then Alan Freed broke it in New York. Because Alan Freed heard and said, "This is a monster record." He said, "You know what? This record's never going to die." Guy was right. Like I said, it's been good to me. It's been great to me. I have the only time I get up in the morning that I have to really get up is if I have to catch a plane. Otherwise, I get up when I want. If the sun don't shine through the window, that means I'm not going fishing.
You surely showed them. 2 million radio airplays. You've sold all these records. You played all over the world. You had your TV show in Italy. When you look back at it, what are you most proud of?
Well, first of all, now it's more than 3 because I have BMI sent us another citation. So it's probably about 4 or 5 million now because I'm waiting for the next award because I have 1, 2, and 3 on the wall. So now I guess I'm going into the 4th or 5th million plays, which is excellent because the higher it goes, you go into a different category of money, of being paid for airplays.
Nice.
Which is great. Anyway, what was the question?
I was just saying, with all this, what are you most proud of?
I'm really proud. I was trying to weigh it out. My son is 41. He got married last year, and he said, "Hey, Dad, would you be my best man?" I think that was a superior thrill to be his best man. And I said, "Well, you should have your best friend." He said, "You are my best friend." And I think something like that moved me. Being proud of my gold records and all that, I'm proud of that, I'm proud of Sleepwalk. It made its mark, so when I'm gone and, my bones are laying someplace, and then they disintegrate, the song will be still living, like Mozart's music, Sometimes you just make these beautiful songs that they don't die.
It'll be on the radio somewhere.
Some planet.
Yeah. Well, on that note, there have been so many people that have recorded the song. Larry Carlton did a beautiful version of it.
He did a great job, yeah.
Yeah, and I heard also a version of it done on the ukulele by a gentleman named Jake Shimabukuro.
I have it too, yeah.
I
have his, did you listen to Danny Gatton's?
I have not heard that one.
Yeah, Danny Gatton did like a blues thing, like with distorted. He did a good. How about Brian Setzer? You heard his?
I have heard his, indeed.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he won a Grammy for it.
What would you say is your favorite version of it?
It was Larry Carlton's. Yeah, I think Larry Carlton. I don't know. I love Larry Carlton's. And I think Brian Setzer's like right there too. It's right under, maybe just could be about equal. I don't know. Maybe I know Larry Carlton's more.
I have two final questions. What is your all-time favorite meal?
I would have to say spaghetti and crabs and blue claw crabs.
Together?
Yeah. We catch them and then we cook them.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
It is interesting. It's delicious.
I will have to try that. My last question. This broadcast is going out all over the world. Sleepwalk is a song that's known all over the world by people of all ages, colors, nationalities, and languages. What would you like to say to all those people out there that are listening to this interview?
The most important thing to me, besides my family and good health for my family, is that I wish that this war that we have ends. My heart goes out to all the families that lost their children. It's the hardest thing to lose a child. If I had a wish to make, I wish that this nonsense ends and they all come home. And God bless America.
Very good. Johnny, thanks so much for this interview. If you're ever in Georgia and after the gig, which I hope I'm at, if you need someone to talk to you at the diner, I will be there. I've enjoyed these stories.
Hey,
they're great.
Keep in touch.
I will do that. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Farina.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.